Discover the sinister secrets of Earth 600,000 years ago. A spine-chilling documentary exposed. Emily sank into her favorite chair, a well-worn relic in the cozy living room, her long shift as a nurse finally washed away by the smooth swig of red wine. The flickering light of the television bathed the space in a dim glow. Earth 600,000 years ago. The narrator's eerie voice rumbled, sending shivers down her spine. The images of desolate landscapes and shadowy figures began to weave a tapestry of unease in her mind. Each connection he made between ancient civilizations and modern oddities stirred something primal in her, a lurking dread that clawed at her insides. As scenes shifted from sepulchral burial sites to bizarre celestial alignments, Emily felt a chill creep into the corners of her home. Muffled whispers seemed to float down from the treetops bordering her backyard, shadows flickering just beyond her window. It was probably just the wind, she told herself, but her skin prickled with the unsettling thought that the past wasn't just behind them. Night after night, she found herself drawn to the strange sounds and strange happenings around Crestwood. Pets vanished, and neighbors whispered late into the evening, their eyes darting nervously. Exhaustion threatened to distort her perception. "I'm just being paranoid," she reassured herself. But the comforting night routine she shared with Lucas began to twist. When her son presented her with a stack of drawings, terrifying images of shadowy figures and cryptic symbols, her heart dropped to a new low. Had Lucas picked these up from their eerie little corner of the world, or was something darker influencing him? She clutched the drawings like a lifeline as panic festered in her chest. Emily braved a knowing glance towards Mr. Jenkins, their neighbor. The sweet schoolteacher, with his warm smile, now imbued a sense of dread. A mere month ago, he was someone she cheered for. Now, his laughter curled into something sinister. As she dug deeper, scrutinizing the hushed voices that drifted from his home, doubts began to surface. No one in Crestwood believed her. They sang his praises while shrugging off her concerns as the ramblings of a stressed-out single mother. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Lying in bed one restless night, she listened as whispers wound through the trees outside. Clutching Lucas to her side, she felt a fear that had roots deeper than anything she had ever known. The thought gnawed at her: what if Mr. Jenkins was no friendly neighbor, no devoted teacher, but a harbinger of ancient evil? She felt herself teeter on the edge of hysteria, reality withering under the weight of her paranoia, and when a dark shadow slinked across her living room window, fear turned to terror. Lucas, drawn to the sound, perched himself beside her, clutching his drawings. "Mommy, who's that?" he whispered, wide-eyed. A trickle of icy sweat slid down her back. "What now?" As she turned to the window, the truth loomed like a storm cloud, ready to unravel everything she thought she knew. The shadow sprawled across the window, its form undulating like smoke, stretching and contracting. Emily's heart hammered against her ribs, an unrelenting rhythm matched by the rising tide of fear within her. She couldn't breathe. The whispers wrapped around her, thick and tangible, squeezing tight, pushing against her sanity. "Lucas, stay close," she commanded, her voice trembling. He nodded, eyes wide, dark pools reflecting the dim light as if he sensed something lurking just outside their safe haven. With taut fingers, she crept toward the window, each step heavy on the creaking floorboards. The flicker from the television sporadically illuminated the room, casting jagged shadows that danced menacingly. She peered through the glass, her breath caught in her throat. Nothing. Just a gust of wind rustling the branches outside. But her instincts screamed that something was wrong. Something was watching them. "Maybe it was just a bird," she whispered, but the words felt hollow. She turned back to Lucas. Just before she could finish, a loud thump echoed from the back of the house. The sound, heavy and ominous, reverberated through the walls, sending a fresh wave of terror cascading over her. Her thoughts spiraled. Was someone inside? Mommy? Lucas's voice broke through her thoughts, small and frightened. He was clenching the drawings so tightly that the paper threatened to tear. She could see the fear etched on his delicate features, the innocence shattered. Everything will be all right, sweetheart, she lied, desperation dripping from her words as they made their way toward the back door. As Emily willed her legs to move, past the living room's dim glow toward the kitchen, the air felt electric, crackling with danger. She pushed through the doorway, heart racing, ready to confront whatever awaited them. Shaking hands steadied against the cold doorknob, she swung it open, the darkness beckoned, deeper than mere absence of light, filled with an oppressive weight. The backyard lay before her, moonlight barely piercing through the thick trees. But then an unmistakable figure flickered into view. Mr. Jenkins. He lurked in the shadows, an uncanny smile painted across his face. Emily, he called in that voice that once felt warm but now chilled her to the bone. I was just checking on you. I thought you might need some help. The word tasted bitter on her tongue. She forced a laugh, trying desperately to sound casual, to mask the terror clawing at her insides. We're fine, thank you. But her stomach churned upon seeing his eyes glimmering with something dark and eagerness that felt unearthly. Are you sure? Lucas, come say hi. He beckoned cheerily, stepping closer, while the shadows around him deepened and twisted unnaturally. In a flash, Emily grabbed Lucas, pulling him back. Stay behind me. She commanded, feeling the rise of panic. The hairs on her neck stood rigid as she scanned the woods behind him, the thick foliage thriving with hidden secrets. I found something, Mr. Jenkins said, his voice slick and drawn out, like syrup, as he slowly revealed something from behind his back, a crumpled sheet of paper, one of Lucas's drawings emblazoned with the terrifying symbol. What do you want? Emily was firm, yet her voice quivered with dread. Wouldn't you like to understand? He whispered, a hint of malice lacing his tone. The truth has always been there, Emily, you've just been too busy to see it. Without warning, the wind howled, and the shadows behind him shifted, curling and writhing like serpents, converging on the edges of reality. Mommy! Lucas cried out, sensing the imminent danger. In that moment, the thought crossed her mind, could it be true? Could Mr. Jenkins be a part of something much darker than she could comprehend? Suddenly, the world around her felt fragile, and she wasn't sure how far she was willing to go to protect her son. Emily, you have to choose, he urged, his voice dripping with unsettling calmness. Embrace what lies beneath, or face the consequences. The weight of his words hung in the air, taunting her, wrapping around her heart like chains. What kind of choice was that? And just as she gathered her resolve, something deeper in the trees shifted, a rustling that sent shivers through her spine, as if the ancient past itself awakened, reaching out. What did they awaken now? The rustling grew louder, an urgent whisper of the woods, crawling into her ears and burrowing deep into her psyche. Lucas clung to her leg, grounding her even as she felt the earth beneath her tremble. Mr. Jenkins' smile widened, unfurling like a flower in bloom, but it was far from beautiful, it was grotesque, a mask for something malicious. See, you're already part of it, Emily, he murmured, his eyes boring into hers. They glimmered with a knowing that felt ancient and otherworldly, like something that had watched civilizations rise and fall. You just need to accept it. A howling wind rushed through the trees, almost as if the woods were echoing his words, an unseen force pushing against Emily. The shadows behind Mr. Jenkins twisted further, spilling over the ground like ink from a broken well. A shiver ran down her spine as she remembered the drawings, the simplicity of Lucas's innocent art starkly contrasted against Mr. Jenkins' chilling demeanor. Stay back, she barked, steeling her voice even though it trembled. Get away from him. One skeletal finger gestured toward the dark expanse of shadow. You have no idea what lurks in those woods. But you soon shall. Before she could process his threat, an echo of laughter erupted from the trees, high-pitched, derisive, mocking. It reverberated through the night, an unsettling symphony that sent chills cascading across her skin. The laughter grew louder, not as something distant but as if figures were emerging, shaping themselves into forms just beyond her sight. "I want to let you take him," Emily shouted, feeling desperation claw at her throat. She took a hesitant step backward, the weight of fear dragging her down with every movement. "Your resistance is futile," Mr. Jenkins replied, the cheerfulness dropping from his voice like leaves in autumn. "What matters is not your will but the will of those who walked this earth long before you." Emily felt a deep-rooted instinct urging her to flee, the primal call to protect her son resonating fiercely. She turned on her heel, ready to grab Lucas and run as far as they could from this nightmare. "Now!" she hissed at her son, urging him to follow. The moment she turned, she felt an invisible grip on her arm, a cold touch that paralyzed her. "Emily!" The way he said her name twisted in the air, thickening the atmosphere with an unearthly ferocity. Lucas's small hands tugged at her leg, trying to pull her away, but she was frozen. "Look around," he said, his voice pitched lower, almost a growl now. "You are not the first family to be drawn here. The arousal of the ancient ones, it's happening again." Swirling shadows surged toward her, the tangle of darkness are sinister and ethereal. Fear gripped Emily's heart, she could finally see them, faces emerging from the shadows, distorted but undeniably human. Ageless eyes stared back at her, filled with sorrow and rage. "What do they want?" she gasped, barely able to form the words. "They want you to join them, make the choice." Mr. Jenkins leaned closer, his breath foul, hovering around her senses as if he sensed her breaking resolve. At that moment, the ground trembled again, and a crack split through the earth, drawing her gaze. A figure emerged from the fissure, cloaked in darkness, a spectral hand reaching out toward them. "Run!" she shouted. As they stumbled back toward the house, the shadows leaped, slithering at their heels, hungry for her choice. The door clapped shut behind them, but the shadows shrieked, battering at the wood, the sound of angry souls clamoring for something long lost. In the instant of closing it, Emily dared one last glance outside, the woods alive with lurking shapes, an unrelenting reminder of the threat that lay just beyond her door. "Mommy!" Lucas cried, slipping on the floor, but Emily scooped him up, her heart racing as darkness rained down upon them, a storm unleashed. "Stay close," she urged, heart hammering, brain racing. "We need to figure this out. We won't give in." But the shadows continued to pulse and writhe, drawing closer. "Mom!" Lucas's tiny voice quivered. "What is happening?" "I don't know," Emily whispered, realizing she was standing at the precipice of a nightmare, uncertain of the path ahead. What choice would she make when the moment of reckoning came? In the stillness that followed, enveloped in rising tension, a soft voice whispered from nowhere, "Embrace them, or perish." Emily's blood ran cold. What would she sacrifice to protect her son from this sinister truth? And the ground beneath her quaked once more, heralding an awakening that could not be undone. What awaited them in the heart of darkness? The house creaked under the pressure of the shadows hammering against it as Emily pressed her back against the door, trying to catch her breath. Lucas clung to her like a lifeline, his small body trembling with fear. The darkness swirled in patterns outside, groaning in discontent, as if the very woods demanded entry. She scanned the dimly lit room, her mind racing. There had to be something, some tool, some way to fight back. All she could see were shadows, cluttered corners, the heavy fog of night creeping through the window panes. "Mommy!" Lucas whimpered, and her heart twisted at the sound. He deserved safety, not this nightmare. "Shoo, baby. We'll be okay," she whispered fiercely, but doubt clawed at her throat. She had no idea what was happening, a sense of impending doom tightened around her like a noose. Suddenly, a loud bang erupted from the back door, making them both jump. The shadows outside screeched, a cacophony of fury that sent shivers down Emily's spine. Clenching her fists, she shot Lucas a look. "Stay here," she commanded, even as dread filled her with ice. She peered into the kitchen, where the back door trembled violently with each blow. It felt as if something or someone was trying to get in. The laughter from the woods swallowed the air around them, chilling her bones. Emily took a steadying breath, forcing her feet toward the door. In her mind, a lurking question echoed, what did those spirits want? Did they truly wish to join them? She reached for the handle, feeling the cold metal burn her skin. As she twisted it open, silence fell like a heavy blanket, smothering the nighttime wails outside. The door swung inward, swinging wide open to a scene that made her stomach drop. The moonlight illuminated the yard, revealing figures standing just beyond the threshold, hunched, gaunt shapes cloaked in shadows, watching her with hollow eyes. They moved as one, inching closer, their breath misting in the night air, reeking of decay and despair. Lucas darted behind her, whimpering softly. "Mommy, no!" She shouted back, as fury ignited within her. This was her home. Get back! But the whispers of the Ancient Ones crawled into her ears, weaving skeins of terror around her mind. "Join us, accept your fate," they cooed, their voices enchanting yet devoid of sanity. Suddenly, one of the figures lunged forward, a skeletal hand reaching out. Emily took a step back, her instincts screaming at her to retreat. But behind her, the darkness loomed, closing in. "Lucas, we need to find the basement," she exclaimed, fear sharpening her resolve. She'd seen it in the corner of her eye earlier, an escape route. Taking her son's hand, she pulled him back into the house, slamming the door shut. The shadows writhed violently against the wood, the imprints of their fingers pressing through like burn marks. "Mommy, what if they come in?" She knelt to look him in the eyes, forcing courage into her voice. "We won't let them. We'll stay together, okay?" They darted toward the basement door, but the house seemed to grow, twisting and distorting around them as if seeking to keep them trapped. Emily clawed at the handle. It felt immovable, stuck under the weight of the darkness. The noise outside morphed into a low, rumbling growl, stirring her heart to wild beats. Desperation surged through her. "Help me!" she shouted, pulling with all her might, feeling the door finally grown open, revealing a damp, dark staircase leading down into the abyss. With Lucas safely tucked against her side, she plunged into the darkness, kicking the door shut behind them. The air was thick and fetid, stifled by shadows, yet a call echoed from below, a soothing rhythm mingled with whispers. Emily, it rang in her ears, luring her deeper. Fear gnawed at her. What awaited them below? She tightened her grip on Lucas. "We need to go, quick." As they descended, the wooden steps creaked, every sound amplifying their weight. With each footfall, the soft voice grew louder, more enticing. At the bottom, Emily hesitated. Tension throbbed in the air like a heartbeat. The darkness ahead was thick. Unfathomable, a world of hidden horrors waited just beyond her sight. "What if we shouldn't be here?" Lucas asked, his voice small and fragile, collapsing the facade of fearlessness she'd built. "Mommy," as they reached the final step, something shifted in the shadows, a presence stirring that felt all too familiar. The Ancient Ones beckoned, the choice looming ahead. What would they say to Emily when she finally crossed that threshold? With a deep breath, she stepped forward, ready to unveil the secrets below. But what would she have to sacrifice to uncover the truth? The darkness enveloped them like a suffocating shroud, a thick fog of uncertainty pressing in from all sides. The basement was dank, a small room filled only with the whispers and memories of tragedy long forgotten. Emily felt Lucas shiver beside her, his small hand slipping through her fingers. "Mommy, I'm scared," he said with a tremor in his voice. The fear in his words mirrored her own, wrapping around her heart like barbed wire. "Stay close," she instructed, her voice a shaky breath against the overwhelming silence. Her eyes darted around, absorbing the space. Old boxes lined the walls, coated in dust and cobwebs, remnants of a life that felt more like a ghost than reality. Then she saw it. In the dark corner, half hidden by shadows, an old lantern hung precariously, swaying gently in the stale air. The thought of light sparked something inside her. She moved toward it, each step echoing in the oppressive quiet. "Mommy!" Lucas whispered, urgency creeping into his voice. "Just a moment, sweetheart," she replied, reaching for the lantern. But as her fingers brushed the cold metal, the air turned sharp, electric. She felt it before she saw it, a rush of cold that swept through the room, sucking the warmth from her skin and leaving a bitter chill in its wake. The whispers grew louder, swirling around her like fallen leaves in a storm. "Come closer, embrace your past," they taunted, infusing the air with dread. Suddenly, a flash of light flickered from the lantern, illuminating the basement with a flickering glow. Emily's heart raced. Shadows danced along the walls, but she couldn't allow fear to paralyze her. "Lucas, hold on tight." But when she turned, a figure loomed just beside her, one of the ancient ones, its ghastly face twisted in a grotesque smile, eyes aglow with hunger. The air thickened with its presence, and an acrid smell clawed at her throat. Emily stumbled backward, grabbing Lucas's hand, prepared to run. "We need to get out." But as she moved, the shadows around them thickened, coiling like snakes waiting to strike. Every inch felt like a battle against a pressing weight that threatened to drag them both down. "Why are you here?" the figure hissed, its voice a low growl that resonated deep within her bones. "You sought the truth. Now it's time to accept the truth's price." Emily barely understood, adrenaline blurring her thoughts. "We don't belong here. We're leaving." Yet, the basement seemed to twist, distorting her escape route, closing in like a vice. The lantern flickered, casting grotesque shadows that threatened to swallow them whole. Lucas cried out, and Emily felt her heart clench. Breaking free from the figure's grasp, she yanked Lucas away, eyes wide with terror. "Stay with me." As they dashed toward the stairs, the whispers turned panicked, a cacophony of lost souls wailing for release. The air crackled with energy, they screamed and begged, each voice another thread knitting despair into the very fabric of this chamber. Just as they reached the dark staircase, a hand shot out from behind, skeletal and desperate, grasping at Emily's clothing. She ripped away, but her heart sank as she felt the chill seep into her flesh. "What if I never get out?" she half sobbed, pulling Lucas closer. With a final burst of courage, she pushed through the haze, dragging her son along with her as they climbed. Each step felt heavier than the last, the weight of the voices clawing at her mind, making the world around her spiral into chaos. At the top, Emily shoved the basement door open, but the figure was right there, blocking their escape. "You cannot flee from your destiny," it hissed, a smile curling its lip. Panic surged, but all she could think was survival. She shoved Lucas behind her, taking a deep, shuddering breath, but the darkness hung like a storm cloud in the air. What sacrifice would she have to make to save her son? "Run!" she screamed, but for how long could they escape? As she bolted into the oppressive night, the shadows laughed, a chilling crescendo ringing in her ears. What would they do next? What secret awaited them in this cursed place? With each heartbeat, the answers loomed closer, darker than she could ever imagine. Emily burst into the night, clutching Lucas tightly against her. The cold air felt like a jolt, mixing with the sweat that coated her skin. She didn't stop running, not even to catch her breath. The path underfoot was uneven, and she feared a single misstep could mean losing everything. "Mommy, where are we going?" Lucas's voice cracked, panic tightening his words. "Anywhere but here," she gasped, her eyes flicking over her shoulder. The shadows from the basement clawed at the edges of her vision. They were still there, waiting, eager. A distant howl of wind whistled through the trees, echoing her own dread, and the darkness felt alive, writhing in the periphery. They stumbled toward the tree line, and Emily reluctantly slowed, pulling Lucas closer to her side, shielding him with her body. "We just need to hide for a moment, okay?" she whispered, searching their surroundings. The creaking branches surrounded them, the forest felt like a dark prison. "Why did that thing want us?" Lucas's small voice trembled. Emily swallowed hard, gripping her son tighter. I don't know, but we'll figure this out. We have to. But the lurking fear tangled with the trees, thickening the air around them. She crouched low behind a gnarled trunk, listening intently. Was it her imagination, or did she hear soft whispers flutter through the wind, echoing her terror? Then, abruptly, a crack of a branch echoed to their right. Emily turned to see a dark figure emerge from behind a cluster of trees. Her heart thundered as dread spiraled, a primitive warning pulling at her instincts. Run! She hissed, urging Lucas forward, but the ground seemed to shift beneath her, a strange pull drawing her back. The figure stepped closer, and in the soft moonlight, she could almost make out a familiar face, a shadow of the past, a long-lost memory surfacing. Emily, it whispered, the tone delicate yet tainted with malevolence. Get away! She screamed, pushing Lucas ahead, feeling the forest tighten around her like a noose. She didn't know if it was the shadows or her mind playing tricks, but they began to close in again, whispering promises of forgotten secrets. Embrace your legacy, the voices cooed, sweetly toxic. Lucid, yet terrifyingly wrong. No! Emily shouted into the void, the word a desperate grip on her last vestiges of hope. But she felt something tugging at her heart, an inescapable pull toward the truth that refused to let her go. As they dashed deeper into the woods, visions of the past crashed against her mind, faces from before, lost connections, snippets of life that felt like shards of broken glass. What was real? What was a lie? Mommy, what is happening? Lucas cried out again, and for the first time, doubt flickered in his eyes. Emily's stomach twisted. She had to be strong for him. Just keep running. We can't stop. But with each step, the whispers grew more insistent, clawing at her sanity. You seek the truth, Emily. Let us guide you. Suddenly, the shadows sharpened, and with a furious rush, the figure sprang forward. Emily froze, an icy chill carving through her veins as she recognized the face. It was her own, twisted, ghastly, beckoning her forward. In that moment of clarity, she understood. Whoever, or whatever it was, craved her acceptance, her surrender. And all at once, the horror bloomed in her chest like a dark flower. Mommy! Lucas shrieked, the innocent call grounding her. She tore her gaze away from the haunted reflection, her heart breaking. I won't let you take him. With one final burst of fury and love, she surged forward, yanking Lucas close and bolting away from the echo of her past. But even as they ran, the shadows extended their fingers, grasping, eager to pull them back into the endless darkness. Hold on! Emily gasped, feeling the heat of pursuit radiating against her back. But how far could they run? What would it take for them to be free? As she glanced over her shoulder, the darkness surged forward, a monstrous wave ready to crash over them both. Would they finally find refuge, or had they merely angered the spirits of their own history? Emily's feet pounded against the leaf-strewn ground, the rhythm a frantic drumbeat of survival. Lucas clung to her side, his small body trembling, and she could feel his heart racing, synchronized with her own. The darkness behind them pulsed, a heartbeat of terror, whispering promises that made her stomach churn. Mommy, please! Lucas cried, his voice breaking the heavy air. The shadows loomed larger and more desperate now, as if they could sense her faltering spirit. We're almost there. She shouted back, though the words felt hollow, like a sad echo in her mind. Just a little further. But the forest seemed to conspire against them. Trees closed in around them, hunched and twisted, releasing the smell of damp earth and despair. Every step felt like wading through molasses, every breath a labor. They were not alone in the woods anymore. A chorus of low growls and hisses began to rise, and Emily dared not look back. Mommy! Lucas's voice was sharp, pulling her back from the brink of a panic spiral. Keep running. Her mind reeled with dread. What had she unleashed? What old ghosts had awakened in her flight? Suddenly, she stumbled. Her leg caught on a root, sending her sprawling. Fear ripped through her. Lucas! She gasped, struggling to get to her feet. He had halted a few feet in front of her, eyes wide, frozen in a mix of fear and confusion. Don't look back! She cried, shoving herself up and grabbing his hand. They surged forward again, but it wasn't enough. The shadows danced closer, and she felt a cold breath brush against her neck, sending shivers rippling down her spine. Follow the light. A voice echoed through the woods, disembodied and distorted. It was neither kind nor frightening, it was simply a command, a beckoning. Emily's heart raced, but she wasn't sure whether to trust it. Mommy, what was that? Lucas asked, his blue eyes wide with terror. I don't know. She yelled, but the command burrowed quickly into her thoughts, filling the spaces where fear once thrived. She remembered the stories her grandmother had told her, about the woods that watched, that listened, that could trap you in your own memories. Then she heard it, a faint glow, a small flicker ahead. This way! She shouted and pulled Lucas tightly against her, dashing toward the light. Each step felt charged with a fleeting hope, but also a crisis deep within her. The glow shifted like smoke, brightening and dimming, leading them into the heart of the forest. Behind them, the whispers surged into screams, calling her name over and over, taunting her with the familiar sound of her own voice. Emily! Emily! Embrace us! No! She screamed into the trees, summoning every ounce of defiance left in her. They couldn't take her. Not now. Not after everything she had fought to protect. They burst into a clearing where the light exploded around them, spilling warmth and relief. Emily staggered to a halt, panting. But before she could catch her breath, something gripped her ankle, a shadow, a dark hand emerging from the very earth beneath them. Panic surged anew. Mom, help! Lucas cried, and she immediately swept him into her arms, kicking wildly at the shadow that clung to her. Leave us alone! She roared, pulling Lucas away from the grasp of darkness. But it tightened its grip, a suffocating pull that sent despair clawing through her. Her heart raced, eyes darting around for an escape, and then she spotted an old wooden cabin at the edge of the clearing, nestled among the trees like a sore thumb. Lucas, we need to get to that cabin. She gasped, each word heavy with urgency. But just as they made their move, the shadows surged forward, their whispers now a raging storm, drowning out the pounding of her heart. Stay with us, Emily, join us. Desperation gripped her, she couldn't fail now. Run! She screamed, pulling him with her as they sprinted toward the cabin, the fear curling around her like icy fingers, but as they bolted through the doorway, breathless and trembling, Emily felt a presence behind them. The cabin door banged shut just as the shadows reached forward, crashing into the old wood. Stay close! She exclaimed, her mind racing. Inside, the cabin smelled of mildew and forgotten memories, a sense of wrongness draped in every corner. She rummaged through the dim light, searching for something, anything that could hold the shadows at bay. Mommy! Lucas whimpered, eyes darting nervously around the small space. No more running. We fight. The shadows pounded against the door, threatening to break through. She had to confront whatever had haunted her family for all those years. What secrets lay beyond in this cabin? What awaited them in the dark? As the door shook violently, a chilling thought crept through her mind. Would she have the strength to face her own past? Was there a point of no return? With a deep breath, she leveled her gaze against the door, ready to confront the darkness. But just then, a voice echoed from the other side, a voice that sent ice-cold fear coursing through her veins. Emily, let me in. How could she ever turn away from that offer? Emily, let me in. The voice was smooth, almost seductive, but laced with an undercurrent of something sinister. Her breath caught in her throat as the pounding shadows outside grew even more frenetic. She could feel them pushing against the cabin, their desperation palpable, as if they sensed her growing fear. Mommy, who is it? Lucas whispered, his voice trembling. I don't know, Emily replied, forcing herself to sound calm. But we can't open the door. Every instinct screamed for her to surrender to the familiar sound. The last time she had heard that voice, it was wrapped in warmth and love. But that person was gone. The door vibrated violently against the ferocity of the shadows, resonating like the pulsing heart of doom. Emily's sweat dripped down her back, mixing with the tightening knot of dread in her chest. She scanned the cabin, searching for anything that could help them, but all she found were darkened corners and decaying furniture whispering secrets they couldn't hear. "Mommy." Lucas's hand gripped hers, his small fingers trembling. "I'm scared." "Me too," she admitted, squeezing his hand tighter. The door cracked loudly as if something had collided with it. "Let me in." The voice urged. "I can help you, don't you trust me?" "Stay away from my son," Emily shouted, stepping in front of Lucas as if her body alone could shield him from the horror outside. The shadows paused. In the silence, the voice took on an urgent tone. "You know me, Emily. You can save him. Let me in." A chill crawled up her spine. It knew more than she could give it credit for. How much did it know? Was it toying with her, feeding on her memories, her fears? She felt the weight of years collide within her, pieces of her past mixing with the terror of the present. "Mom!" Lucas cried out, cutting through her spiraling thoughts. "What do we do?" Desperation clawed at her as she searched the space. "We need to find a weapon, something to defend ourselves." Emily dashed through the cabin, looking for anything that would give them an edge. In the kitchen corner, she found a rusted knife, its blade dull but still lethal in the right hands. She gripped it tightly, trying to quell the rising panic within her. As she turned back toward Lucas, the door shuddered one last time, splintering at the edges as she heard the voice again, more insistent now. "Don't be foolish. You need my strength. You cannot face this alone." Her heart pounded, uncertainty paralyzing her. Could she trust it? Or was it another trap woven into the fabric of her mind? With the shadows still raging outside, Emily thought of her family, of all the love they had shared, and the kind of power that bond could wield. If she was to confront the darkness, she had to do it from a place of strength, not fear. Lucas's innocent face looked back at her, filled with worry and confusion. It grounded her. She had to protect him at all costs. "No," she declared firmly, her voice steadying. "We will face this together, without you." But just as the words left her lips, the door buckled violently. A shadowy form began to seep through the cracks, a mass of darkness that twisted and writhed, searching for a way in. "Emily! Don't!" But the shadows swelled, and as they washed over everything, they created a whirlpool of noise, illusions penetrating her mind. She was caught in a storm of memories, of laughter and warmth, mirrored faces that slipped away just before she could grasp them. "Lucas, hold on." She launched towards the window, hoping to distract the shadows, tearing through the curtains and bursting outside into a world that felt foreign and twisted yet all too familiar. In the heart of the clearing, she saw it. A large stone, ancient and engraved, pulsed with a light that beckoned to her. Just beyond it, the dark hand rose again, reaching for Lucas. "Mommy!" He screamed, and her heart twisted painfully. "Lucas!" Time slowed as she made a choice, running towards the stone, a chance at salvation. It hummed with energy, a promise of protection. Lightning danced in the air as the shadows clawed at her heels, desperation fueling their pursuit. Would that stone hold the answer? Or would it lead them deeper into the nightmare? With each step, she felt the power of her choices crumbling behind her. The shadows surged, hungry to reclaim what they believed belonged to them. But Emily was prepared to fight. Would the stone grant them the strength to overcome, or would it plunge them into darkness? Just as she reached for the stone, another voice echoed, piercing through the chaos. "Emily, join us." The invitation was tempting, drifting softly like a lover's sigh, laced with all the comfort she had ever known, but what lurked in the shadows beyond the stone waited with bated breath. Secrets remained buried, ready to explode. "Mommy!" Lucas cried, clinging desperately to her, with her heart pounding violently in her chest. Emily hesitated. Would she dare to answer? Racing toward the stone, Emily felt the air around her thicken. Every heartbeat echoed like a drum in her ears, drowning out Lucas's cries. The shadows twisted behind her, their presence clawing at the edges of her vision, whispering temptations that snaked into her mind. "Emily, join us." The voice was more enticing now, each word dripping with familiarity. Her heart ached. Could she really turn her back on that warmth, on memories that cradled her when everything else felt lost? "No!" she shouted, forcing the words through the panic constricting her throat. "I want to let you take him." She grasped the stone, its surface pulsing with a strange, warm energy that seeped into her palm, a counter to the ice that filled her veins. Lucas stumbled forward, his wide eyes reflecting the light radiating from the stone, and for a moment, the shadows halted their advance, as if in awe. "Let it in." The voice beckoned again, seductive and sweet. "Let it show you what it can do." A flood of memories surged in her mind, visions of her childhood, of laughter from years past, of love so strong it curdled the air around her. It was all in the darkness, waiting to entwine with her soul. Just beyond the light of the stone, she felt the shadows pulsing, hungry for any semblance of weakness. "Stay by my side, Lucas." She pushed the boy behind her, trying to shield him from those grasping tendrils. "Focus on the light." Then, with a sudden blast, the stone ignited. Brilliant sparks exploded, illuminating the clearing and sending shadows reeling backward. Emily gasped, stumbling back as the force surged. It pushed against the dark mass, a wall of energy separating them, and for a moment, she felt safe, but safety came at a cost. The shadows sighed, furious murmurs rising, as if they were drawing on something deeper, something darker. The once comforting voice turned shrill, laced with anger. "You cannot keep it from us, Emily." As the shadows writhed, figures began to emerge. Ghostly forms, blurry and distorted, flickered in and out of focus. They whispered her name, each syllable a chilling serenade that sent shivers down her spine. "Join us, Emily, it's what you always wanted." "A chance to have them back, no." Emily screamed, clenching the knife tight, shaking her head vehemently. "I want to succumb to you. I want to lose him." "Mommy!" Lucas shouted, pushing closer to the stone, fear painting his small face. "What is happening? Where are they?" The sight of his innocent confusion snapped something within her. "Trust me. Trust the stone." The shadows erupted with rage, their dark mass swirling together like a tempest. Emily could feel the pull of despair gnawing at her mind. She was losing ground as the stone's light flickered. "Release what you hold dear." The voice twisted into a desperate wail, tethering her to the grief of her past. She glimpsed lost faces emerging from the chorus, familiar smiles turned into grimaces before vanishing again into the dark. Silence blanketed the world for an instant. The shadows halted, and Emily sensed an opening, a chance to act. She plunged forward, the knife raised high, the stone glowing fiercely beneath her fingertips. "Get away from my son." In that split second, the ground quaked, and the shadows surged with a newfound urgency, spiraling into a vortex of spiteful energy. Lucas screamed as the darkness lunged toward them, seeking to reclaim what it desired, and then the stone erupted, a shockwave of light and sound scattering the shadows outward. Emily felt its power pulse through her veins, lifting her from the ground momentarily as the darkness writhed and howled against it, but as the stone unleashed its might, an unexpected cry rang out, a sound that twisted her stomach painfully. "Mommy! Help me!" It was Lucas, caught in the burgeoning chaos, now reaching for her with arms outstretched, panic blazing in his wide eyes. She was cast into a torrent of emotion, despair pressing against her, creating fractures within her resolve. How could she handle this? Suddenly, a new figure emerged from the depths of shadow, hovering just behind her son, the last person she would ever expect to see. "Emily, it's me." A voice that was a mirror of the one that had echoed from the door. Her heart slammed against her ribs. Every ounce of strength dissolved into fear. Join us, it breathed. In that moment, she was faced with an unbearable choice. Emily seized a breath, the weight of all she loved hanging in the balance. Would she reach for the light or dive into the darkness? We can't lose him, she whispered, her resolve bleeding. What if trusting the darkness meant the only way to save Lucas was through the thing she feared most? Then. Silence, as the shadows held their breath, waiting for her next move. The light flickered. Shadows inhaled. Emily. The air crackled with energy, suspended in time. She hesitated, caught between hope and despair. What would happen if she turned back one last time? Would she dare to reach? Emily's heart raced as she stood at the precipice of a decision that felt monumental, demanding, suffocating, yet undeniably real. The shadowy figure hovering behind Lucas stared back at her, its familiar voice wreathed in darkness. It felt as if the very fabric of her life was poised for unraveling. But she had no intention of relinquishing control. Lucas! She screamed again, her voice raw and desperate. She was staring into the abyss, but something deep within her began to light up. Memories swept like a tidal wave, his soft laughter, bedtime stories, the warmth of hugs. Everything she loved revolved around this one truth: she would do anything to protect her son. No. Her voice rang through the clearing like a battle cry. I won't give in. I won't let you take him. As the shadows drew nearer, their whispering voices became a cacophony, nearly drowning her in despair. But she gripped the knife tighter, feeling a fierce determination swell within her. The glowing stone pulsed beneath her hand, resonating with her unwavering will to protect what was hers. Stay back! She shouted, her eyes fixed on Lucas, who stood aglow with fear. Panic bubbled in his small frame, and she couldn't let him waver. There was a strength she could feel, a connection that tied them against the dark. Trust me, sweetheart. With a deep breath, Emily took a bold step forward, lifting the knife toward the shadow looming near Lucas. You don't control me. Energy erupted from the stone, flowing like fire through her veins as she stepped into the light it emitted. Radiance surged around Lucas, forming a protective barrier that made the shadows hiss and recoil. Join us, Emily. The figure beckoned again, desperation lacing its voice, yet she clenched her teeth, standing tall against its tugging pull. I won't abandon my son. She cried defiantly, her heart pounding with a rhythm that merged with the pulsating glow of the stone. With newfound strength flooding through her, Emily plunged the knife forward, not toward darkness but toward a vision of what could be hope, love, a future unmarred by the past. And just like that, a shockwave rippled from the stone, radiating outward, waves of light pushing against the encroaching darkness. Emily! The shadow shrieked, its voice unraveling in a frantic crescendo, dissolving under the brilliance that in an instant, the shadowed figures began to dissipate, their forms unraveling into streams of dark smoke that curled and spiraled away from her grasp. Lucas took a hesitant step forward, the fear in his eyes competing with astonishment as the figure behind him wavered and then shattered into a million fading pinpoints of darkness. Mommy? Lucas whispered, uncertainty clouding his voice. I'm here, baby. I'm right here. She enveloped him in a firm embrace, her heart pounding with an overwhelming mix of relief and lingering fear that had danced in the air moments before. The shadows retreated, swallowed by the glimmering light that now infused everything around them. Moments passed, yet the air around them felt lighter, almost magical. The grove was still, holding its breath, as if waiting for a final confirmation of freedom. One last tremor pulsed through the ground, a final echo of a choice long overdue. No more running. No more fear, she whispered to herself, stepping forward. This is our home, and we will reclaim it. Then she turned, staring into the depths of the once menacing woods. Go away. You have no power here anymore. She declared, and in that moment, the very essence of her firm resolve echoed through the trees, scattering the last remnants of darkness into oblivion. As dawn broke over Crestwood, light streamed into the clearing, bathing Emily and Lucas in warmth. The woods shifted silent, still, free of the burden it had carried for centuries. She held Lucas close, a sense of triumph blooming in her heart as the pale sun filtered through the branches. "Mommy, is it gone?" Lucas asked, voice still small but gaining strength. "Yes," she affirmed, a gentle smile creeping onto her lips. "It's finally gone." And as they embraced, the air around them brimmed with hope, signaling the dawn of a new chapter. They had faced the darkness bravely, unraveling the knots of fear, each choice binding them closer together. What lay ahead wouldn't be simple, but as long as they stood as one, there was nothing they couldn't conquer. She took a deep breath, collecting the vibrant whispers of the morning air. "Let us go home," she said, and they turned toward the path, ready to build their future, stronger than ever, step by step. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss the next exclusive stories that dive deep into chilling mysteries and heartwarming journeys. Smash the like button now to feed the algorithm and keep this channel thriving. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this thrilling conclusion. And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this incredible resolution. Your support means everything.